The battlefield, the moment's near. Your voice is loud, it's crystal clear. Kiwi dreams and hopes collide. Choose the ones who'll stand with pride. It's in the ballot where we belong. Every vote builds a nation strong. Your council, your board, your mayor in line. Together we shape this land divine. The future's written in your hand. A chance to guide and take a stand. Community rising, hearts aligned. In total we shape this land divine. It's in the ballot we belong. Every vote builds a nation strong. Your council, your board, your mayor in line. Together we shape this land divine. Fusion in your hand, a chance to guide and take a stand. Community rising, hearts aligned. In this moment, powers redefined. It's in the ballot where we belong. Every vote builds a nation strong. Your council, your board, your mayor in line. Together we shape this land divine. It's in the ballot where we belong. Every vote builds a nation strong. Your council, your board, your mayor in line. Together we shape this land divine.
Good evening, everybody, and tonight we're joined here with our one and only Māori ward candidate for the Rotorua District Council. So let's kick off the opening credits and then we'll have a good old one-on-one with Metapeka. And we're coming here for Motion Entertainment. Check it on camera too. Thanks for that, Henry. So we're joined here by Metapeka Take. Thank you for joining us today. How have you been?
I've been very well indeed, thank you. Yes, I had a break of 3 years from council, and so you look at the world differently, and so you look at Rotorua differently. So things are changing rapidly.
Oh, I definitely believe that. I mean, every time I come through here, something's different. And
Yeah.
being Wellingtonian, it's about once every. I would have been here last. Would have been March. So,
Right, yeah.
and it was just driving through the Tauranga for Te Awanui ward for the
Oh,
by-election.
lovely! That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so not too far ago. Well, would you like to give your opening statement of why you should receive one of the free ticks for the Māori ward?
Yes, well, I have had a break of 3 years, and during that time I've looked at some of the significant issues that are impacting Rotorua. And one thing I'm absolutely convinced of, that experience counts. And I have that because it's not just about the things that are here right now. It's about having the ability to scan the horizon, look into the future, and see what will local government, indeed what will the Rotorua Lakes Council look like, how will citizens be able to participate in the future, and what should we be focusing our attention on. So I bring that discipline, I bring that experience, and I certainly bring that commitment. So yes, I'm all geared up for hopefully for another 3 years.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get off to some of the questions here. Now, we're not going to use the timer because it's just you here. We
Great.
haven't got any button cards because no one else is going to be putting in questions. However, we'll be checking. You can have unlimited affairs to candidates who aren't here.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so let's go on to A. Do you support political party endorsements of local government candidates?
No, I don't. I think that local government should be local. It should be, there should be an absence of political parties' involvement, because that obviously belongs to central government, and their policies are put forward by parties. And in local government, we expect the people who elect us to come from all political persuasions and not try to push a party message. So no, I don't. I do oppose, and I'm not in favour of political parties pushing their candidates at local level.
No problem. Okay, let's get on to B for butter. Would you stand up for your community interests if it differs from your own position?
Well, you've got to advocate from a position of being informed, so that you can be helpful. If the community have a different view from myself, then I need to know, what is that view? What are they passionate about? Why are they saying this is how we would like to see you vote? And I think I'd certainly have to give that some consideration, because it isn't actually about what I want. It's really about what the community wants.
So spot on. Okay, let's get for C for Charlie. How will you ensure the voice of mana whenua and Māori communities are heard and acted upon at the council table?
How would I ensure, I'll better have a quick look at that again, that mana whenua Māori communities are heard and acted upon? Will certainly, again, be well informed about what the issues are, why it has come to the table at this point in time, who's been consulted on, because any issues that concern mana whenua, they want to know that they have had input into certainly bringing that issue to the table, and they want to make sure that the points that are important to them are going to be raised. So I would want to know, why has this issue come? Why is it important? Who's been consulted? And more importantly, what action is going to be taken? And everyone around the council table should be fully informed as well.
Perfect. Okay, we've got D for Delta. What does genuine Te Tiriti partnership look like to you, and how will you advocate for it at the council table?
Well, genuine Te Tiriti partnership means that actually council does understand that council does have an obligation, being a local authority, that we do have a responsibility to understand that the treaty partner will have a different view on many things. We will want solutions to some of the issues that we believe are important, and we want those issues taken into consideration. We'll want to have some say in developing the solutions. And so it's really important that you're talking to people, that you understand why they may have a different worldview, and taking that into account, and not thinking, for goodness sake, that it's a one-size-fits-all, because it never is, and certainly not if you're coming from a treaty perspective.
So spot on. So spot on. Okay, we got E for Echo. How will you ensure equitable access to council services for Māori communities?
I think from time to time we do need to run the checklist over some of the services, possibly not all, that are provided by council, to ensure that they are fit for purpose for Māori. And is it actually what Māori would want in terms of a solution, or in terms of being consulted with? So it is about understanding that, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and there is a Māori worldview that council should be taking into consideration, even at the early stages of designing perhaps a service or a solution, and bring the input in as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to F for Foxtrot. What practical initiatives would you support to improve the well-being of Māori in areas such as housing, employment and health?
Well, those are all well-being issues, housing, employment and health. And we need to know that when people are well and when they're well connected into their communities, they feel valued. And so we have to, I believe we have to ensure, first of all, we should be thinking about what is central government doing? What are the government agencies doing? I mean, why should we have a housing crisis in our city? Indeed, even a health crisis as well. So, what are these things? What is central government doing? A lot of money coming in just to put a Band-Aid over the problem. So I think we should be, as a local government, we should be working closely with central government to say, these are the issues. We know our population. We know our community. Let's work hand in hand together to come up with some real workable, livable solutions.
Now, not on topic of that one, but what happens if you get a minister who thinks, say, like, as a Wellingtonian myself, I used to get offended with Simeon Brown, the MP for Pakuranga, trying to tell us how to run our council, and that was evidence with that. What happens if you have a minister who decides they think they know better from, say, Pakuranga, or we could say Wellington, who thinks they know better for Rotorua and get it horribly wrong?
I think that's a very good question, because I think that we know, as councillors and the mayor, we know our community best. We know the solutions that our community can live with. And I think central government and those members of parliament should butt out and leave us to do the business that we wanted, that we know will suit our purposes best. I mean, central government, members of parliament, they've got enough crap to be dealing with in their own backyard instead of looking at ours and saying, we know the answer for you. 9 times out of 10, they do not. They mess it up, and then local authorities have to clean it up.
I've seen that so many times. Yeah, I've seen it so often. Okay, let's go for G for Geyser, since that's a bit more appropriate for here than golf. What is your plan to strengthen Te Reo Māori and tikanga in councils, operations and public spaces?
Well, I think we're lucky here in Rotorua because obviously tikanga and te reo are part and parcel of Rotorua. We are a bilingual city. We have that status already. And I must admit, when you've got 42% of your population who are Māori, they're saying that our language is an official language. We want to ensure that it is given every opportunity to be spoken in public places, and these public places belong to Māori as well, belong to everybody in the community. So I think it's about making sure that we take, as a council, every opportunity to celebrate te reo and tikanga, not just say, oh, well, can we afford it, or we'll just add it on if anybody asks for it. No, damn it. No, put it in right from the start. Be proud, loud and proud. Te reo, tikanga in Rotorua, that's for sure.
So it's definitely not an optional extra.
It's not an add-on, an appendage, no way.
Okay, we've got H for hapu. How would you ensure community facilities and services meet the need of growing and diverse populations?
Well, Rotorua does have a diverse population, and that diversity is growing year by year. So we do have to say to our diverse communities, what are the open spaces that you and your family would like to share and be a part of? What are the community facilities that we could better provide for you, or perhaps in some way change or amend that would suit your purposes better? The other thing I think for diverse communities are our facilities affordable for them. That's sometimes an issue that keeps diverse communities away or not engaged. The facilities are either too expensive or they're perhaps not even user-friendly and diverse-friendly enough for some of our communities.
I can actually certainly relate to that when it comes to budgeting for it's in the ballot and trying to find a venue when you're not a local. You don't know about the little town halls and that sort of thing. And that's, I'll be honest, I don't regret coming to Motion Entertainment. I think it's a fantastic facility, but I'll be honest, it ain't quite the Tawa Anglican Church at $50 highridge, or the Kelson Community Hall at $10. It's doing it on there. On some good news, Bay of Plenty Regional Council are funding these It's in the Ballot shows.
great. Well, and good on them for doing so.
Yeah.
Because I think they're interested in making sure that the more people who can see, the candidates and what their views are, the better. So, yeah, kia ora to them.
Yeah. No, they've done very well headhunted. They kind of headhunted us, saying, we're offering these grants and we see you're going to do this. How can we help? And I'm very pleased that they have.
That's great. I mean, that is really great.
Yeah.
That's something that's to be applauded.
Yeah. Okay, we got I for Igloo. How can the council contribute to civil defence and emergency management in our area?
I think that is a key role of council, because during an emergency or a civil defence, event, people do look to the civic leadership. They do look to council to step up in times of emergency, to be able to communicate well, to be able to communicate early and just say, we are concerned for you. We are doing everything we can. We're putting plans in place. And so, you will be hearing from us. I do know too that marae play a significant role now in emergencies, in providing emergency accommodation or just a hub for emergency services to congregate and to disperse and distribute what might be needed for the community. So councils play a significant role, and they are widely respected for doing so.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Jay for Juliet. What will you do to improve engagement and transparency with local residents?
I think that we have a low turnout in our local elections because people don't know what we do. And sometimes when they know what we do, I sometimes think that there might be an issue of trust, because, when you're dealing with ratepayers' money, and sometimes they feel that there's an issue that hasn't gone their way, they feel that they haven't been heard. I think that we need to engage better, and in a variety of ways, and social media certainly seems to get people riled up these days. I'm a great believer in kanohi, ki te kanohi, one-on-one, face-to-face, but we need to develop a range of opportunities to engage and have early engagement with members of our community. It is the voices sometimes that are not in the room that we should be trying to seek out and saying, this is your future as well. So we want to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Kay for Kakadiki. What is your view on co-governance arrangements for natural resources and council services?
I'm a fan of co-governance, certainly for our natural resources. I mean, we already have that in Rotorua, in the South Waikato River. We've got representation on there. We've also got co-governance in some areas of our water resource. And of course with our geothermal as well and our lakes. So co-governance is not something to be afraid of. If anything, it is something that we should be encouraging. We should be encouraging because it's about working together to get the best outcomes. And I can tell you that in the past, in terms of our natural resources and even council services, the best outcomes haven't been there. So if you can do it better, then let's do it better. And co-governance to me is one avenue by which, one pathway we can take to do that.
Okay, we got Al for Lima. What is your position on cycleway expansion throughout the city?
Yes, well, we've had a few balls up in that area, I can assure you. We had the green cycleway, but I think sometimes it's all about timing. Because there are a lot of people that are getting into cycling, and of course Rotorua. Okay, we've got our big, we've got the bikes, big bike complex out at Waipa, trailer bikes, and all of those, bikes, and people are out there every weekend. And of course, people do tend to be biking to work and that now. But that is an alternative way of people getting around. It does cost money. I think it is about timing and it is about prioritising as well. But I do support it. I think it's a healthy way for people to get around. Unfortunately, not all people can, and I'm one of them, that can't get up and get on a cycle and go for it.
And I've got to admit, I miss it. I'm trying to find the bike that has been someone who's 6'4" is able to ride down without hurting my knees while riding. So I'm still trying to find the bike that does it, but I don't want to quite spend as much on a bike as I've spent on a car because it doesn't quite feel like the right thing. Like my rule was for years, I'd never spend more money on a cell phone than I spent on a car. And at the time, the dollar figure was $800, which was my little Suzuki Alto red car.
Oh my goodness.
800 cc's.
$800. God, look, you wouldn't get a bike these days for that.
No.
Not a good one.
I got 6 years out of that car. I mean, I did spend probably, about 3-4 grand in maintenance in it over 6 years, but I would have spent that on a car that was worth 10 grand.
Well, I think these days, I mean, I love to see families out and about, and they're biking through the city on the weekends, and it's lovely. And I think we probably will see that because people are looking at how much well, we're trying to move away from that, aren't we? But biking is, they say it's healthy. It's like walking and running, and
it's easier to find a car park.
Yeah, it is indeed. It is, and cheaper.
Yeah. That's always someone. It's like, I wish I had a bike to do this because then you can you can get around certain. What are the one-way streets like here?
Not too bad. We've got, I think, very few of them, thank goodness. I think we've got only one-way streets. Yes, we have, but there's the isolated one or two, and that's it.
Yeah, but it's not like Wellington.
Oh,
where
hell
it's
no.
like,
No.
it's like, what do you call it? It's like, you come off the terrace tower, you got one-way street to
That's
left, one-way
right.
street to the right,
Yeah.
one-way street to left, two-way. It's
No, nothing like that.
Okay, let's get to M for Mike. Do you support reviewing council spending priorities before turning to further rates increases?
I think council should be constantly reviewing their spending priorities. And I think annually, that, of course, is what happens before there is any rate increase. But the dilemma is that, we want, the citizens want to make sure that they have services that are of good quality. They want services that are kept in good repair, and services that meet the growing population of Rotorua. So all of these things cost money, and so you do have to prioritise. So, but that's what happens every year. If we don't keep things in good repair, if we defer repair and maintenance, it costs us dearly in the long run. So what do you drop off? And that's the dilemma that councillors have to go through every year to decide, and they'd certainly do that with their long-term plan. But councillors every year look to see what is it that we might have to drop off in terms of the program and projects that we want to do. What might we have to drop off? What might we have to defer? What might we have to cull altogether? It's a real balancing act, and sometimes it just does not work out.
I want to ask, who owns the airport here? Does the council own the airport?
The airport, there's an airport company, but the land is still owned by council.
Okay.
But there is an airport company, yes.
Okay, yeah, no, I was wondering if it's similar to Wellington, where it's like 33% is, in the case of Wellington's, owned by the council. But I was wondering if that's a good revenue generating asset that can help bring in help keep rates down.
Yeah, that there is actually that isn't. For the council, that's an expensive exercise, and so the Rotorua the airport is always under financial pressure as well. And as you know, there has been a drop off in some services, particularly to Wellington. There's been a reduction of those services, and that's impacted on the viability actually of the Rotorua airport.
Oh, yeah, I remember my first plane ride was actually out of Rotorua. Actually, no, first one that I remember as a child was out of Rotorua, and it was because the flight was $30 cheaper than Tauranga, and it was after visiting my dad when he was living up in Tauranga back in the day.
Yeah, well, we do have the airport is a CCO, a council-controlled operation, but nevertheless, they have to try and make ends meet like everything else, and it's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to M for November. Many residents feel disconnected from council decision making. How will you improve transparency and community engagement?
Well, we tend to ask our community if it's a significant issue, or we tend to ask them to put in a submission. People just don't want to do that. Haven't got the time. They don't know how to go about it. They don't want to write anything down. They'd rather just rock up and say you're either doing a good job or you're not doing a good job. So where are the opportunities to have those little pop-ups? To have them down at the market. Once a month, have council staff a few councillors, put a rotating, schedule there for a few councillors to go down and be at the market and just say, hey, we're thinking about changing this, or we're thinking about adding this, or we're thinking about doing something else. What do you think? Have a little clipboard there and say, we got 27 replies and everybody said, what a crappy idea. That'll soon give you an idea of what you think. But transparency is really important. And, when you send out the, your rates bill, put a little notice in there to say, these are the 3 things that we've noticed in the last 6 months people are really concerned about. And they're concerned about the parking meters, or the change of, all of those sort of things. But we've got to take every opportunity to say, if the community say, we didn't know this, how come we didn't know? Then that lies, and the problem there lies with council.
I think that's actually a really good place to actually put in, upcoming submission stuffs into the rates bill, because it doesn't cost that much to print off that extra page or two. You're still going to be spending the nearly $3 to post a letter out these days, because it's, goodbye the days of being 40 cents. And so that would actually be a good way to say, these are what's coming up, this is what the submissions are, get them in, and hopefully that could lead to more engagement.
Well, I think these days we always say, would you like to get your annual invoice, or your invoice, or your quarterly invoice by email?
Yeah.
And that's because of convenience for council.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of older people, they would always prefer to see the envelope come in their letterbox, open it and think, oh, got to put that right, stick it on the fridge, I'll remember to do that,
Yes.
And that sort of thing. And so there's that's demographics in Rotorua,
Yes.
because we do have a high percentage of older folks, and so we want to make it easy for them as well. It's not always the most convenient for council that actually is the most convenient for the ratepayers. Got to remember that.
You're so right. And my grandma's actually does find it annoying receiving her phone bill by email now.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Whereas, she was from the days of where it was always posted, and it's no longer the case. I think the power bill still was posted to her, though.
Yeah, well, I received my power bill by mail as well. And I know it's a matter of quietly taking a certain sector of our community with us, with council. But and for many older folks, they're a little bit afraid of communication, and computers and things like that. Many of them just don't. I mean, I know somebody very close to me has a mobile phone only for answering, never for ringing anybody or for texting. Absolutely not. She actually told me she doesn't have texters on her phone. The mechanism to do it. And I said, well, actually you do, but she swore blue and black she didn't. So
at least my grandma knows her phone can text, even that she can't do it. But the primary reason for her one was they have the Bluetooth with hearing aids. That was her primary reason for that particular type of cell phone she had, was one that had buttons, because she's vision impaired, but it was also have the hearing aids with the Bluetooth.
Oh, great. Never thought about that.
Yeah. So it's part of the reason why she has a cell phone, but she still uses the landline half the time.
Yes.
And I may put it this way, I tend to ring the landline before I ring her cell phone. Yeah. Okay, we got O for, was it Opotiki? Do you support borrowing funds for major projects, or should we focus on a pay-as-you-go model?
I think that there is an argument to be made for funding major infrastructure. I mean, the pipes are damn expensive, for water, for wastewater, for drinking water, and of course for storm water. And it's the pipes that we can't see, the infrastructure that is so expensive. And then you've got to cater for the repairs and maintenance, your current usage, and for growth as well. So those really, that's very expensive, capital intensive, and we should be able to borrow. I mean, there's a limit within you that we can borrow, but we should look at that and definitely, I think, borrow, but not willy-nilly, but for significant infrastructure. Yes, and this pay-as-you-go, no, that's not going to foot it.
Yeah. Okay, we got P for, now do we have a Māori name for P that's local to Rotorua?
For P?
Yeah. I'd like to say, phonetic alphabet says Papa, but let's get a bit more creative because we're on a Māori word show.
Oh, well,
I can
protecting, I suppose you could just say Kaitiaki of National, Guardian of, and protecting, yes, kaitiaki, natural areas and biodiversity while still supporting economic growth. Oh, I definitely think that council, I mean, our natural areas, they're important. They're important to this area. They're important to the community. They're certainly important to Māori. And so, and do we look at them while supporting, how do we advance economic growth without compromising our natural areas? And I think we have done that in the past. But I think you've always got to weigh up and have a look to see if we're going to develop an economic project, will there be a downside? Will there be impacts that could negatively impact on the natural environment? And if so, do we proceed? Do we put conditions in that might mitigate, the impacts? Or do we just say, no way, not at all, this is not for tampering with? And those are big questions that we should perhaps consult more widely, and shouldn't just be left to council as well. But to me, our natural environment, once it's buggered, it's buggered. So try not to do harm. That would be my argument.
Okay, we got Q for Quebec. How will you ensure that Māori heritage and waihi tapu are protected in urban development projects?
Well, if they're in urban development areas, then they should be identified. Sometimes there is a secret file that councils have, and I say a secret or a locked file, where waihi tapu are noted. And so if there is anything happening in that area, they will know of that. They might not necessarily say what it is, but they will say this area needs to be preserved because there are areas that are significant to iwi Māori or to Te Arawa. And we do have to protect those. Urban development, yes. That's going to be quite big on the, in the future, this increased urbanization. So we've got to make sure that all of these areas that are important are documented, are known to council, and certainly known to the iwi councillors, to the iwi representatives that sit around the table.
Okay, we got R for Rotorua. How will you balance housing intensification under the district plan with preserving the character of the city suburbs?
Well, intensification, we want people to be housed, let's be honest. We shouldn't have a housing situation in Rotorua, and we shouldn't. But we are a low-wage economy in Rotorua, so intensification, which means putting another house at the back, and our sections in the older homes are that big. Because years ago, the kids used to go outside and play, and you had two cars around the back lawn, and everybody was under the hood of the car every weekend trying to fix the car, so we had big sections because we had big families. And I think there is an opportunity for intensification, but it has to be done in character with the suburbs, But what are suburbs these days? They are changing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I doubt whether we'll see the 3 stories. We are seeing those in some areas. And to be quite honest, they are where there has been development in the last year or two, usually to take up the slack that is the social housing area. So, and that's good because families must be housed. But you shouldn't destroy the character of city suburbs. You should look to see how can we ensure it fits in nicely so that nothing seems as if it was just done willy-nilly. We don't want that.
Yes, mushroom development.
Exactly,
I think what
exactly.
you've described, yes. Okay, we've got S for sulphur. What is your approach to improving housing affordability in the city?
Well, we do know that, as I've just said, we are a low-wage economy in Rotorua. So we do have to look at the range of housing that we provide. One of the most significant issue for people trying to get a foot on the housing ownership ladder is trying to raise the deposit. You know, if a house is 500,000 and people have got to come up with 10,000, with 10% deposit, that's 50,000. Who has that? You know, put aside
You'll
when
lose
you've got
your
a
accommodation supplement at wins
Well-
once you get over $8,000.
Well, that's right, and you know, and you're trying to put your kids through school and everything else like that, and so that is their difficulty. So improving housing affordability is making sure that there is affordable homes to rent. That's the other thing, making sure that the social housing is affordable as well, and looking at all options, but particularly for families with children. That has to be the priority. I don't want to see children. We had over 800 children in the city 18 months ago, 2 years ago, going to school from a motel. Now that's certainly, I don't want to see those days again.
Yeah. Okay, we got T for Tarawera. How would you balance long-term asset renewals with keeping rates manageable?
How would I balance the long-term asset renewal with keeping rates manageable? Well, you've got to make sure that we have an asset renewable plan. We've got to make sure that we keep up the renewal of our assets, that if they're not fit for purpose, then when do we discharge them? When do we say that's enough, that life is coming to an end, and start factoring in as early as possible when these assets are going to have to be replaced. So it is about having quality asset management in the meantime, but also starting, and what's wrong with starting a 20, 30-year asset renewal plan, so that we know, because in Rotorua, our assets, particularly the pipes underground, we know that they deteriorate. Usually in other cities, you need to start replacing them after 60 years. In Rotorua, it's after 40 years, and that's because of the geothermal. So we need to have our asset management renewal plan up to scratch, constantly renewed, and also making sure that we do the renewals as soon as they come up, and God, not defer them.
It's interesting about the fact that geothermal actually shortens the lifespan of the pipes.
It does, absolutely it does. And that's why we're always under the pumps with our assets renewables, and also with the rates, and trying to manage our rates as well. If we didn't have geothermal, because we're a tourism visitor city, if we didn't have the geothermal issues with the pipes, we would be sitting pretty. Well, certainly a lot prettier than we are right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest issues. The other issues I've just mentioned, because we are a visitor destination, we have our domestic visitors and overseas visitors, then our 67 public toilets, I mean, that's bigger than any city in New Zealand. 67 that we have to keep to a certain standard. They're dotted all around our lakes, dotted all throughout the city, and they have to be at a certain standard because that's what our visitors require of us. And so we're trying to cater for the demand from our local ratepayers, and also the demand for the visitor, the overseas visitor, who has certain expectations. And that's getting harder and harder for the city to manage that. You know, what goes, what stays, and that's really difficult. And it's the sustainable financing of our city that right now is the question.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to you for uniform. How would you embed Kaitiakitanga?
Kaitiakitanga.
Kaitiakitanga, principles into the country's climate action, into the council's climate action, water management and biodiversity strategies?
Well, I think knowing that the first thing we've got to understand is that all of the natural resources are not ours. They're not the council's. I mean, we have a management role. They're there in perpetuity for future generations. So if we take that long-term view of our water and of our biodiversity, if we take the long-term view, then we will start to think about how do we, as guardians, start to plan for their use and their management. And it shouldn't change every 3 years when new people are elected, like we have in council, you know. So we should take that long-term view, and we should say right from the start, we're guardians for future generations. Nothing must be put at risk. Nothing must be harmed or put in danger. So we manage with future generations in mind. We manage with the best practice best practices, and we scour New Zealand for best water management practices and overseas as well. We look at what diversity strategies have been successful in other places, or do we develop our own? So it's a mix of strategies that we can use. But first and foremost, we are guardians. We do not own anything. We're there for future generations. Do no harm.
Okay, we got V for Victor. Do you support incorporating, was it Mātauranga Māori in climate resilience planning? I'm learning a lot of new words.
Yes. Mātauranga
I'll thank
Māori
Helen for all of that.
is how Māori do things. What is the background of Māori in terms of education, in terms of the environment. And I do support Mātauranga Māori in climate resilience planning. Again, it's being future focused. It is, I suppose it's getting clear about what is it that we want to see in the future in terms of climate. We want to see, we don't want to see the impacts of climate change. We know what they are now, and now we've got a very vulnerable climate now. So we want to make sure that everybody values the environment, that everybody has a say in how we manage the environment, that we certainly take a very holistic view of how we keep the environment safe and look after the environment. And right from the children right up, we should always be looking at our own actions. We can look at the council, yes, and say, is council doing the right thing? But are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the recycling at home? Are we making sure that we don't waste water? Are we making sure that we just don't throw anything in the dump that shouldn't be in the landfill? So there's a whole lot of ways, and Māori have always said that water and land are precious. Of course, Papatuanuku, the land is precious. Why is precious? And so we think very much about we don't harm it. We make sure that we respect and value it, because it's got to go on and on for future generations. It is actually about showing respect.
Okay, we got W for Whiskey. What experience or skills do you bring to ensure sound financial governance and decision making?
Well, I've had many years of governance experience, and that does include financial governance as well. I was elected for 12 years as a member of the Rotorua DHB, District Health Board. I was 11 years elected a Lakes District Council, and I've been 9 years on the Rotorua Trust. And all of these are significant governance roles. But what it does give you, it gives you an opportunity to be well connected into your community, and you know that the decisions that you make can have an impact on the community. So you think long term, you think strategically, and that's the experience that I bring. I mean, I know that people have to start somewhere, but right now I think it's necessary to have that institutional knowledge that I have and that sound business background of council. It's really required now, because central government is starting to eye local government. They're wanting a say in the operations of local government, and I would prefer them to butt out because they don't have they don't have the drop on us on solutions, and I want us to be able to chart our own way. And because we're unique in Rotorua, we've got a high Māori percent of population, Māori ratepayers, and certainly our big trusts and corporations. Māori are the biggest ratepayers in Rotorua, so it can no longer be about us without us at the table.
Henry, are you able to hit the hard-hitting questions graphic, please? The video.
Hard-hitting questions. I don't get anything but it. What does a question? Because every candidate has answered the hard-hitting questions.
No, camera 2. It's all right. It's Henry's first day on his own doing it to help try and go around the country. Okay, so let's get to hard-hitting question number 1. What success for to Ipu Wai Taketake Māori ward looks like to you after 3 years?
To Ipu Wai Taketake Māori ward. What that will look like for me after 3 years is that there will be respect shown for the Māori ward councillors, the three who will be sitting at the table. There will be an acknowledgement of the skills and commitment to the mahi of council that they have brought over the last 3 years, that they will have had input and that they will have brought the real voice of Māori to the table, that they will have brought a different lens that perhaps in the past hasn't been there as vocal as it might have been, that they will have been taken seriously, and that they will just be seen as members of council who have the added value of knowing tikanga Māori, knowing te reo Māori, knowing what the issues for Māori are, for iwi Māori, for te aroa are, and they will have been staunch advocates for Māori, for the Māori ward, te Ipu Wai Taketake Māori, that they will have been staunch advocates and that their presence will have been felt. So that's how I see. I think people will just say, we'll always want the Māori ward candidate councillors at the table.
Okay, let's get on to hard-hitting question number 2. How will you integrate kaitiaki tanga guardianship into regional, environmental and land use decisions?
First of all, by having Māori at the table, you integrate kaitiakitanga by having people at the table who actually know what that means. So, and you can't integrate kaitiakitanga. It's not a hit and miss. So the people who know about guardianship, who know about why things have been done over the years this way, and they've done it because of the protection of the natural resources. They want the longevity of the natural resources. They want the use to be there for future generations. So you do that at regional council by having people that clearly understand that these kaitiakitanga is a respected way of operating that is of benefit to all our community, to those that use the resources, that those that respect the resources, and that those who want to see the resources there for future generations. It is a respected view, it is a respected role, and it is to be valued by the whole community.
And now here's the most important one for this election for every voter. What's your position on retaining Rotorua Lakes District Council, Te Ipu Wai Taketake Māori Ward and the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, was it Rotorua Māori constituency, and why do you hold that position?
I do want to see the Māori ward, Te Ipu Wai Taketake Māori ward, and the regional council or Kurei Māori constituency. I want to see them retained. I know the value of having Māori councillors at the table. I know that they bring a different worldview, they bring a different perspective. They also bring a network of contacts, and they bring that diversity or that unique thinking, Māori thinking, to the table that is not there when you have all councillors, or most of them, the majority, who are not Māori. The Māori councillors are there because they know these things, they know they are important. And the other thing which we need to start to think about is the treaty settlements have changed the landscape. Te Arawa here in Rotorua, they want to use the treaty settlements to invest in our own town, in our own city and district. And those investments are for the benefit of everybody. But they don't want to do that without being at the table where those decisions are being made. So it is no longer about Māori in our area without us being at the table. There is nothing to fear by having Māori at the table and everything to gain. I am of Te Arawa. I have been a councillor for 11 years, and this time I'm standing for the Māori ward. I can tell you now that my skills and my knowledge is equal to anybody else who will be standing. So I believe that I will add value from day one, as I always have. And so we share together the skills that we have to make a better future for all citizens of Rotorua. And I welcome the opportunity to do that again in this next term, this upcoming term.
Okay. Do you feel you need a closing statement? Because I certainly can tell you, if I was in the area, I think I know where my ticks will be going.
I'll just briefly say that being a councillor isn't a popularity contest, and I would like our ratepayers and those who will be voting in the election next month, I'd like them to understand that it's not who you like that you should be voting for. It's not whether you like Merepeka or whether you like any other candidate. It's about who you believe can do the job. And that's the most important thing. It's about somebody that you believe will stand up, speak up, and advocate for our city, advocate for all people in our community. It's not just for those that are well-heeled and that are always turning up and speaking up. It's for everybody. It's for the quiet people that sit in the corner and hope you will understand their point of view. It is for the parents and their children who love this city and who are depending on you to speak up on their behalf, because they so often believe that they don't have a voice. So that's why it is important not to vote for the people that you think, oh, because they're popular and they've got a name. Vote for those who will show up, stand up and speak up. I'm Merepeka Raukawa-Tate, and I'm standing in the Māori ward for the Rotorua Lakes Council. I would like your vote, because I believe now is the time that we should be speaking up for the citizens, all citizens of Rotorua. Kia ora.
Okay, thank you for that. And just to put some clarification out there, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council thankfully haven't been forced to have a referendum this local body elections, but it's great to maintain that it was it Orkidea Māori constituency should stay at a representation review, which I mean, I don't know what Bay of Plenty Regional Council cycle is, but yeah.
Yes, well, I think every 6 years there is a review, but that was enacted by an act of parliament, and so that Māori constituency can only be removed by an act of parliament. So they're fine.
Good. That's good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I wish other ones were like that, but yes, no. So I do fingers crossed to Whanganui Atara Māori Ward, which is my local one, is also remaining after the election.
And listen, can I just say thank you very much for what you're doing. I know that you're travelling around, and in the next week or so, the Bay of Plenty and to other places throughout Aotearoa, and it's a great service that you're doing. You're informing people, you're showing up, you're giving candidates the opportunities to speak up for their community, to show what they represent and their thinking on various issues. And I want to thank you very much, because we need more of this, and you're giving us that opportunity.
No problem. Thank you for that. And just for those who are watching now or later on, if you're watching live, if you want to help contribute to the cause, you can always give us a super chat, or if you're watching later on, a super thanks. And you can also head to our website. It's in the ballot.nz, and click on donations if you'd like to donate money direct into our bank account. You can also donate to our Give a Little page, or you can buy an Eventbrite koha ticket or an Eventbrite admission without koha to help keep these It's in the Ballot shows going. Thank you, Merepeka, for coming today.
Thank you.
And I was going to say, we'll be back at 7 o'clock.